How is corruption solved overall? Well, first and foremost, just by the light of awareness. Remember my episode where I said awareness alone is curative? Well, awareness is curative. As we're seeing Trump behave like a devil in front of the cameras, that camera light that's shining on him literally is bringing forth his own devilry and materialism and narcissism and broadcasting to the entire world how ugly that is. That's helping people. That's helping us to evolve and advance as a society. That's necessary. So don't think that Trump is a step backwards. Trump is a step forwards in the counterintuitive sense that sometimes you got to see how ugly your behavior is before you can correct it. Corruption is solved by truth. Corruption is falsehood, and truth does conquer falsehood in the end. But in the short term, falsehood can win out sometimes. Lying does work in the short term, which is why you do it. Another way corruption is solved is that it autocorrects over generations. It will autocorrect because of this larger theme of life, which is that evolution increases consciousness and love. That is what evolution is. It's the steady increase of consciousness and love. So corruption will slowly be reduced further and further and further, but also as new technological fields open up, new corruption will emerge there, like we talked about with the kind of social media examples and the devil learning how to use technology. By passing better laws and having a better legal system, that's very important to shore up our legal system. And of course, Trump is showing us the importance of having a high-quality, uncorrupted legal system for keeping his devilry in check. Corruption is stopped by the evolution of culture. Culture is always evolving, new norms are forming, new values. Culture is moving up the spiral as well as the individuals, and so that helps to eliminate corruption. A better education system is very important. That's a very deep topic. I'll have a whole separate episode about how to fix our education system and all the corruptions of it. Corruption is also solved simply by meeting people's basic needs. Increase the overall wealth and prosperity of the society, and then people have less need to be corrupt. It's very hard to tell people in a country like Liberia, where they're literally shitting on the streets for lack of public toilets and eating dead bodies for lack of food, cannibalism. When they have to resort to cannibalism and whoring and all this sorts of stuff just to make ends meet, it's really hard to tell these people to give up their corruption. They can't do it. Their life depends upon it. So what we can do, though, is we can elevate the quality of life, build more houses, reduce disease in third world countries, help them to generate clean power and other things like this, help them with education, maybe through new online mediums, give them internet access and this sort of stuff. And in this way, we can reduce corruption. And then, of course, by doing that, we can also eliminate terrorism, which is nice. We can reduce war, which is nice. We can reduce genocide. We can reduce nationalist movements. We can reduce rape. We can reduce religious indoctrination, all that good stuff. And corruption is ultimately solved through the moral developmental line and the spiritual developmental line. As you become more truly spiritual, not in name, but actually in practice, corruption stops. So start purifying yourself of your own corrupt tendencies right now. And you can do that by starting to ask the question, what are all the ways in which you are corrupt? How does corruption hold you back from greatness? Contemplate that question. How does corruption hold you back from actualizing your full vision for your life purpose? And practically speaking, there's a lot of different techniques I've shared with you that will help you with resolving personal corruption, such as plugging holes in your Maslow's hierarchy of needs, fulfilling your basic needs, master your career, find a way to make money in a healthy way, then you're going to be less desperate. Clearing out your lower chakras. I haven't talked about that much, but you can find resources for how to do that. The letting go technique is great for letting go of various emotions that make you corrupt and various cravings and so forth. Kriya yoga, meditation, of course, this all helps. Self-inquiry helps. Shadow work helps. I'll have an episode on that in the future. What's it called? Shamanic breathing. Check out my episode on shamanic breathing. That technique can help you to purge. Literally, you can feel the corruption purging from your body and mind with that technique. Journaling and introspection, contemplation. I have many episodes that teach you how to do contemplation. Psychedelics, of course, are very helpful. Facing your fears. My 2 episodes about understanding fear and how fear works. That's very helpful. Opening your heart. Being more loving is also very helpful. And I'll have episodes in the future about how to open your heart and how to be more loving. But of course, these are personal things you do, which are important, but also you need to take collective action as well. Which is why I gave you that example with the wolf pack, because that would be an example of a collective action. See, it's not just enough for you to open your heart. We also need to pass a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics, for example, in America. The ultimate solution to corruption is consciousness, truth, love, and spirit, ego dissolution, and transparency. Transparency is just another word for awareness. Imagine, for example, if your life was lived with 100% transparency. That means that a camera followed you around everywhere you went, no matter what you did 24/7. And this was broadcast on TV all the time. That means that everybody in the world knew your schemes. They knew what you were doing. They knew what you were up to. They knew all of your secrets. And imagine the camera could even, like we even plugged a computer wire into your skull, and we could even read your intentions, your thoughts, and your emotions, and how you feel. And all of this was broadcast to the entire world. So that if you had a corrupt thought, if you had a thought like, ooh, I want to grab that woman's tits, or it's like, ooh, I want to steal some of that money. It's like, ooh, I want to whatever. I want to steal some of that candy from that baby. You have these corrupt thoughts, or like you have some sort of desire like, oh, I want to cheat on my wife or whatever. You have this, but it was immediately broadcast to everybody. See? What you should realize is that your corruption couldn't be sustained because your corruption only works in the shadows. Many of your thoughts and emotions are very toxic and selfish and negative because they're so private to you and there's nobody to hold them in check but you. And of course, you won't do it because you're self-biased. So the reason I'm telling you all this is that if you're more transparent in your thoughts, words, and actions, that will help a lot. If you scheme and you manipulate and you hide your intentions a lot, that's gonna produce shadows in which corruption can hide. Remember also not to be too quick to judge the corruptions of others. It's very difficult to rid yourself of all corruptions. This is a superhuman task. This is a godly task. This is your life's work. So before you judge others, first fix yourself. Worry more on fixing yourself, or perhaps contributing to good causes like Wolfpack. And also have compassion for corrupt people. I notice this tendency within the media, on YouTube and elsewhere. Some video comes out with some latest person who's corrupt, and then everybody dogpiles on that corrupt person and calls them a devil and evil and blah, 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 blah. But the compassion is missing. Corrupt people are not really evil. They're simply lost in unconsciousness. They simply weren't educated properly. They simply don't understand what they're doing. They're scared. They're scared of death. They're scared of spiritual work. They're scared of love. They're just trying to survive. Have compassion for that. And have compassion for your own corruptions too. See? Because if you judge others harshly for being corrupt, you will also have to judge yourself for your own corruptions. If you judge yourself too much for your own corruptions, you won't even admit your own corruptions. And you'll be very corrupt. So paradoxically, hating corruption doesn't solve corruption. It increases corruption. Because hatred is a low consciousness reaction. Low consciousness produces low consciousness. Birds of a feather flock together. If you want to eliminate corruption within yourself and others, practice love. Love the corruption to death, just like I told you to love the evil to death. Same thing. It's okay to admit that you're selfish. It's okay to love yourself even though you're selfish and you struggle to let go of a certain corruption or a certain selfish craving that you have, that you know you should be able to let go, but you just can't let it go. That's fine. That's where you're at. Accept that. Love yourself for being that way. That will help you to overcome it. It's not going to work by making yourself feel guilty and hating yourself.